Good evening, everyone. I'm Melanie Huggins. I'm the Executive Director of Richland Library, and welcome. I'm so glad you're here with us celebrating Women's History Month. We are highlighting some real trailblazers and just heavy hitters tonight, and I could not be more thrilled with this panel. Each of these women have helped to shape Richland County's political future in some way, and some of them still are to this day. They each represent milestones in county council, political first, family legacies of public service. We have got a talented, amazing group of lady bosses here tonight. And helping us with this entire night, let me just say, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for Jesica Mackey. Thank you for thinking of this idea and asking us to help you pull this together. We can't wait to hear from you and your colleagues. And we are also pleased to co-host this event with Columbia City of Women. Tonight's moderator is a trailblazer and heavy hitter herself, and that is Barbara Rax. Many of you know her already. She has amazing roots in this community. Her business prowess is well known. She has e-business ventures that have followed over 20 successful years in traditional brick and mortar retail, in which Barbara built a $10 million company doing business in 3 southeastern cities and employing more than 100 people. In 2016, Barbara joined with other women to found a nonprofit corporation called the South Carolina Women's Leadership Network. And its mission is to encourage women to step up and lead corporations, boards, and government. In 2019, South Carolina Women in Leadership has taken the additional mission of collaborating with other organizations to ensure fair voting and filling the pipeline with diverse candidates. In 2019, Barbara Rax was selected as one of 25 women of influence by the Columbia Regional Business Report. Please note, as we go through our panel discussion, that we are recording it. So if there's someone you would like to send it to later, it will be available on the library's YouTube channel. Also, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we will get to as many as we can. To Mrs. Rax and our panelists, thank you all for being here, and I look forward to what I know will be a lively, inspiring, and engaging conversation. Barbara?
I'm here. Thank you very much, Melanie, for the kind words, and thank everybody for being here, particularly the women who are leading our way on Richland County. So we're here to recognize them, and these women are going to share their, I'll call them their wins, their losses, their challenges, their lessons through their stories tonight. I have known and admired most of these women for some time, and I feel privileged to be able to ask them some questions that will help us all have insight into how they made their decisions to begin to become the foundation on which we and our children and our children's children will grow women in leadership. So I'm going to start by just reading a short bio of each of our panelists this evening, and I'm going to begin with Candy Waits. So Candy, if you can show up. Yes. Hey, Candy, good to see you. Some of this I have to partially read because I want to make sure I don't miss any of the high points or get the dates wrong. I know that if I do, Bernice Scott's going to come back and correct me. So I want to make sure I get them. So Candy made national news during the 1964 presidential election when her Wheaton classmates had to raise money to buy a plane ticket for her to come home and vote. As a result of the publicity, South Carolina changed its absentee ballot laws the following year. Waits told one reporter, and this is a quote that I don't want to get wrong, "The important thing here is that I've been waiting many years to vote. And suddenly I'm 21 and discover I can't vote because I'm away at school. When a girl reaches 21, fine clothes, exotic foods, Cool dates and perfume are fine and dandy, but she also wants her right to vote. I think that is sort of timely because we're still learning about absentee voting in 2021, or we're still working on it. So in 1976, Candy Waits ran as a Democrat and became the first woman elected to Richland County Council first. Seems so recently, sort of. She was reelected in 1980 and 1984, and she served altogether on the council for 12 years, after which she decided to run for the South Carolina House of Representatives in a special election. She was reelected again to a full term in November of 1989. And I'm sure that you had many, many firsts while you were there as well, Candy. Thank you so much for everything you have done. And next, I'd like to ask Councilwoman McBride. Can you come to life? There you are. Oh, there you were. And if you'll unmute yourself as well. Oh, you don't have to unmute yourself. I'm sorry, I'm doing the talking right now. A native of Richland County, Councilwoman McBride was sworn into office as a council member in January of 2017. As councilwoman for District 3, McBride's top priority is maintaining an open door policy for her constituents. She wants to ensure that their voices are heard. She focuses on economic development, education, public safety, and addressing social service needs. McBride brings more than 3 decades of government experience to the council. During her career, she has launched innovative educational and juvenile justice programs related to delinquency prevention and community empowerment. Thank you for your service, Councilwoman McBride. And Jesica Mackey, the youngin' here. Can you come? Ah, there you are. Hello, Jesica. Jesica Mackey is the youngest African-American woman to be elected to Richland County Council. She represents District 9, which is located in the Northeast and includes the Pontiac community. I just lost you there for a minute, sorry. She started her professional career in Columbia, working with Palmetto Parent Magazine and the South Carolina Governor's School for Science and Mathematics Foundation. Whew, a lot of words there. Before moving to the Low Country to work with communications and economic development for the city of Goose Creek. In 2016, Jesica moved back to Columbia and now serves as a senior project advisor to NP Strategies. Awesome, great to have you on council, Jesica. And we know that you and Ms. McBride and the other 3 female members, is that right, are gonna make a big difference. All right, Bernice Scott, my heroine. Can you, Bernice, come back. Oh, there you are. Bernice Scott is a lifelong resident of Richland County and of District 10, a district that she represented for 20 years on Richland County Council. She's a longtime community activist leading the influential women's community organizing group that strikes fear into some people's mind, called the Reckoning Crew. Not the Wrecking Crew, the Reckoning Crew. Scott has been a strong force in community organizing in South Carolina for more than 35 years, and on council, she was the first African-American woman to serve as its chair. She is also instrumental in implementing the master drainage plan for Gadsden and Eastover and worked tirelessly to bring fire protection to rural communities. Scott is the chief architect of the Lower Richland Swamp Festival. We need to find out the date of that from you, Bernice, so we can all go out. And she was named 2008 Local Official of the Year by the South Carolina Department of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism. Forgot to mention that the Swamp Festival is in recognition of the Congaree National Park. And I hate to say, excuse me, last but not least, Susan Brill. You are by no means least, but you are last on my list here. Hey, Susan, how are you? Okay, Susan Brill is a Columbia native, and she was elected to Richland County Council in 1996, re-elected in 2000 to serve for District 9, which is the same but different district that Jessica is now serving. So following 2 terms, Brill then ran for Richland District 2 School Board, where she served for 10 years. I think I've got that correct. She's been very active in the community. She's the past chair of the Historic Columbia Foundation. She served on the board of the Campaign to Prevent Teen Pregnancy, the Prisma Health Foundation Board, and Central Midlands Council of Governments. She's a recipient of the Order of the Flame, Richland District 2 Award for Distinguished Service, and she was honored with the Outstanding Northeast Citizen Award. Whew. That's a lot of accolades for 5 women. So now let's hear from the women on whose shoulders we do stand or will stand. I've gotten some great questions that I'm going to ask, and I'm going to do them in what I'll call a random order. So don't get to expect that they're going to come in the order that we've just gone through. And then we'll have a little bit of time to take some questions from the audience. So I'm going to start with Jesica Mackey. I'm picking on you. You replaced Chip Jackson, who passed away suddenly after being reelected in November of 2020. What motivated you to run to fill that seat in a special election?
Thanks, Barbara. It's a good question. When Councilman Jackson passed, it was really in the middle of COVID. You know, we all witnessed something that we had never seen, and especially I had never lived through a pandemic or experienced anything like this. And it allowed me to stay at home. You know, I was working from home with my 2 children. I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. And you start thinking a lot differently about just, you know, life, your personal life, career, and what's going to happen next. And watching the news, and we all saw there's a lot of social unrest going on the television at the same time during COVID. So there's a lot going through your mind. And my husband and I, we, you know, built our house here. We knew we were committed to living and staying here in Columbia. And I just said, you know what? I can't sit around anymore. I'm looking at Richland County. I feel like there's a lot that needs to be done. You know, with my experience in local government, I really believe that we were at this critical time in Richland County where we needed the change to happen, and we needed it to happen now. We couldn't wait, especially in District 9, where I am in Northeast. For those that live out here, we see the growth that is happening. There's so many families moving here, and young families with kids. Our schools are growing. It is a growing district. And I knew that something had to happen. So I just decided, I'm no longer going to be the person that sits at home and talks about, well, what is Richland County doing? What is government doing? How are they going to make it better? Let me get up and actually do something about it. If I believe I can help, I'm going to run and try to help change the community that I'm committed to. And so I decided to run in a special election for the first time ever during COVID. And it worked out. So.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jessica, both for your answer and for stepping up to do that. And now I'm going to pick on Ms. McBride, Councilwoman McBride, because your family, there has been a member of your family on Richland County Council for more than 4 decades. What is it about public service that has become so important to your family? And did your sister's term on county council influence you to also run? Remembering that Ms. McBride was sworn in January of 2017. So she's still a newbie on the council.
Correct. Well, Bob, it actually started my interest in public service. It started with my mother, and she never ran for office. She was just a mother of 8 kids and worked hard, and you know, didn't go to college, but she was an everyday citizen But what she did with 8 kids, she was very active in the community. And actually, I used to go with her to the March of Dimes, collect money for the March of Dimes. And so the public service started with my mother. And from then on, my family sort of evolved into what I don't consider politics, but people may call it politics. But we began to be involved in public services and helping with the community and gain the community trust. When I decided to run, actually, I was really thinking about, because I've been in a number of executive level positions in Georgia and came back here. And I had decided that I was going to be a community activist and work with the community to lobby, for lack of a better term, advocate for rights. And so I had no interest in being an elected official at all, none whatsoever. Mine was just working with the community. And I was approached by several people. And so I said, okay, I'll do it. And I'll do it my way. And so I ran and I was elected. And I think it was based on the service that my family has given over 30-some plus more years here.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for your commitment. And if it's possible to do, thank your family on behalf of all of us who are enjoying the quality of your service.
Thank you.
Ms. Waits, may I turn to you? So before you, there were no women on county council. That's a formidable barrier. Tell us what motivated you to run for office and what specific or general interest impediments you faced as being the first for that.
Okay, well, like Councilwoman McBride, I had a mother who was very influential, and she had been involved with the League of Women Voters for years and years and years, and I had always been aware of the importance of being involved in the community. The League is nonpartisan, but was always involved with issues. And governments across, county governments in South Carolina came under what they called home rule in 1974. So for the first time, Richland County was going to be able to make their own decisions. They were going to have people there, instead of the delegation deciding what was best for the county council was going to be able to do that. We went from a 5 to an 11-member body. There had never been, only people who had ever served on Richland County Council were white men. So we put together a slate of, there were 11 seats. And so there were 11 Democrats, 11 Republicans. We each had a slate. And on our slate, there were 2 women and 3 African-American men, and then the rest white men. I ran because of the issues, because we were, as I said, we're now having the authority to make decisions about all these various issues. And so I was the Columbia League president at the time and had been very involved in some of these things like consolidation and education. And so people came to me and said, why don't you run? Why don't you run? Who, me? I mean, I'd been observing meetings all my life, but I'd never thought about running for office. So the more they talked to me, the more I thought, well, okay, I can do this. And so I did. And at that time we ran countywide. We walked, several of us would take turns, and we would walk all over the county, going door to door, talking to people. And we talked about issues. And before that, people had only had what they call palm cards. I'm strong, I'm healthy, I'm good, I'm smart, you know, just this little card with their names on it. So for the first time, we talked about issues. And that was that made some people, candidates, uncomfortable because they would rather not do that. But now, what did you ask me, Barbara? What was this? Oh, a lot of these men had never worked with women before. And so they sort of assumed that we didn't know what, you know, we weren't very good. We didn't know anything about money. I chaired the Administration and Finance Committee because when they would have these budget meetings, they'd bring the information to us, and I would ask all these questions because I had read the information. And the men would look at me like, what are you asking questions about? You just approved this. We had our first meeting, and I'm going to hush. our first council meeting. And in the league, we followed parliamentary procedure. We had agendas and so forth. And we went into this meeting and somebody raised their hand and say, oh, let's talk about such and such. And they talk about such. We had no background information. We had no, as I said, no agenda. And then it came time to appoint somebody to a board. The boards were always, up to that point, they were all white men. And somebody would say, I nominate John Jones. And they, oh, he was my campaign manager. Okay, so we elect John Jones. So I said, wait a minute, we've got to change this process. And we did. That's enough.
I was not telling you to stop, Candy. I was saying that is a process that needed to be stopped.
Absolutely. No, I know you weren't, but I'm finished.
Okay, well, that was great. So I'm going to pick on Susan Brill now. So Susan, like Candy, you've served in 2 different elected bodies.
Right.
While you weren't necessarily the first, you also, I'm sure, had to overcome some questions about why, as a female, you were capable, what kind of responsibilities you'd be neglecting at home, some of the things that we all face. What motivated you to go into public service and then to stay there for a considerable period of time?
Well, fortunately, I had had the experience of working in Washington after college and worked in a congressional office, and then followed that working for Senator Mark Hatfield of Oregon, and was fortunate enough to be able to write on conservation for him. And so that was sort of my political background before marriage and children. But like Jesica Mackey, what my concern was growth in the Northeast. You know, we were a young family living out in the Wildwood part of the Northeast, and they were bulldozing, taking down the trees and putting up giant billboards, you know, interstate billboards on 2-Notch Road. And it was just frightening to see the way our neighborhood was changing. You know, we moved out here because we wanted bucolic neighborhood, you know, the trees and the birds and the animals and the deer. And all of a sudden it was being taken away from us. And I was really concerned about how we were growing and what we were going to look like when it was all over. So there was an opportunity for me to file to run in 1996. I didn't know a lot about politics, and I didn't know a lot about parties. I wasn't either one thing or another thing. I was just a person that was concerned about my community. So when it came time to choose a party, I had no idea if I was, you know, red, white, or blue. But so I chose a party, and being a moderate now, still, I could have been in either party and been very happy. But I was successful with my campaign because of all the friends and neighbors that we had made through the years. You know, carting children around to different activities, you make a lot of friends. And it was a great opportunity for me to widen my horizon, you know, just meeting and getting to know Kit Smith and Bernice Scott. And, you know, everything that Candy went through, she got it all straightened out for us because it was all just the way it needed to be. We had an agenda, we had everything was perfect. And thank you, Candy. I did not know you did that. But we did so many awesome things while I was there. I'm most proud about our Conservation Commission, which still exists and still very successful. And also, I know if Bernice remembers, 1999, we did the 929-6000 one response call, and that is still working. People could call in with any of their problems or issues or potholes. They even look at me now and say, what do I do? I said, call 929-6000. So Jessica, we did all that for you. And then we had some huge issues like Green Diamond, whether or not you should build in a flood zone. And we stood together as a council, all of us, and said, you know, you shouldn't build in a flood zone. And then along comes the village at Sandhills, and that was a huge issue in the Northeast. What was that going to look like? And wouldn't you know, the developer was a local developer, someone that everybody respected. And he had to go through more hoops to get approval process. Setbacks, buffers, extensive landscaping. Every time I drive over to the village at Sandhills, I think, oh my God, what they had to go through to get this done. And it all happened. It happened the way we should have done it. And we did do the appearance commission, but I don't know what happened to that. That was a little bit like Columbia Green for the county, but I don't think that that's still in existence. And I did want to mention, we started, I think it was 2003, 2002, 3, we did the hospitality tax. And that was really, you know, I think we were ahead of our time. And that was to support Adventure, Historic Columbia Foundation, the Museum of Art. And, you know, I was sitting next to Thelma Tillis and she looked at me and she says, why am I voting for this? I said, because you and I are friends and you need to. I said, we need to bring business and we need to bring tourists into Columbia and we need to support these important entities so people will want to come to Columbia and there are things to see and things to do. So fortunately, we did that, and all of those entities, Historic Columbia, Museum of Art, Adventure, have taken off and they now have the funding that they need. So, you know, I'm really very grateful for the opportunities that I had. And, you know, going from county council to school board was really very different. It was a whole different organization and a whole different way of working on issues. And everyone is elected at large.
That's my second question for you. Can you hold off on that till I get to the second part?
Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. I gotta save something. Otherwise I won't have a good question for you. So thank you very much. And for the service and all, I mean, Candy got the agenda and Susan got things. We've all got things. So I'm gonna now, Ms. Scott, like I said to Ms. Brill, you are not least because you are last in my question here. So you worked in government for a decade before you ran for office. You've told us a little bit about ombudsman and some of the things that you did prior to it. What inspired you to go, shall we say, to the other side of the table? You know, you were working at it and then you decided to help govern it.
Well, I've always helped people in my church and everywhere. I'm one of 11. I was one of 11. I'm the 7th child. And we always had to share what we had. My perspective of Richland County is Richland County. If you look at my record, I voted on Richland County issues. I fought dirt roads because they were in my district. But the thing was, in order for us to really make the county whole, you have to be open enough to see the whole county. And my thing was, I was up there helping. I was the assistant to the clerk of council at that time. And what happened was some of the good council members decided they would write me out the budget because I was doing too much work. People were coming in lines and asking for me. And they wrote me out the budget. So when I got home that night, there were Senator Darrell Jackson and plenty of people to my house, and I thought something had happened. And they said, you got to run for county council. So I thought about it for a moment, and then I thought to myself, you know what? I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna do it. There were 5 people in one district. I came out with 54.3% of the votes the first time around because the people understood me and they knew that I had worked for the community. See, when you're running for office, you got to have it here. If you're not committed to it, you're not gonna be any good. You can do all the self stuff or whatever you want, but to make Richland County grow, and Susan was one of my people that I just loved her to death. Susan, when she talked about the hospitality tax, and I voted on all those issues, but when it came down to the county to get things done, it was like, okay, we need to put this money over here and not over there. We got countywide fire protection. We got ambulance service. We got the sheriff department has substation all around now. For the first time in my life, we got parks and recreation all over our county. I dealt with Richland County as a whole, because you can't have dirt roads in one area in your county and expect people to stay in that little circle in Columbia. So, you know, it just makes you feel good when you look at Richland County as a whole. And see, me and Susan Kidd, Thelma Tillis, God bless her soul, she just passed, and I loved her to death. We talked about things about the county as a whole. And that made us good. We could argue on council and go out for nachos this next minute, because you got to understand about the county. If you don't understand about Richland County, then you just focus. Your focus is too narrow to do anything else. And I was blessed enough to do those things. And I thank God for everything I do. And now I'm working with the flood for 2015. Ever since 2015, people's houses now are falling apart and all. And I'm still begging for grant money and stuff like that, because it's an ongoing thing. And you have to do it from your heart. And that's what I do.
Well, I'm going to say bless you, Ms. Scott, for keeping on working on that, because the 1,000-year flood was a couple of years ago, and a lot of people think of it as sort of out of sight, out of mind. And no, I know that it's not. So I'm going to swing back to Ms. McBride, if you're willing. So again, I'm going to refer back to your family again, because it astonishes me, the longevity and the depth of it. What do you hope from your service on council is going to be sort of the legacy of the McBride family? You've been there for a short time. What do you hope to accomplish during your time on council?
Great. One of the things that I guess when you read my short bio was that I am the voice. I feel that I am a voice for the community, and particularly in underserved communities. And that's what my family has basically done all our lives, working to ensure that the most vulnerable citizens are also served. And so hopefully, when I leave Richland County Council, whether it be whenever it is, that I would like to see changes in the way that we are currently doing business. There is, and I've said it before in council meeting, and Ms. Mackey can tell you that I preach it every day. I'm looking for racial and gender equity in providing services and receiving contracts and an involvement period in Richland County. I think that it's missing, and I would do everything in my power and hope everybody else will join me to make a difference in equity issues. Because I think that it's not just for racial equity or gender equity, but when we make it in an inclusive environment, an inclusive county, we help all the citizens of Richland County. And so hopefully, right now, and I don't know, Ms. Huggins might be on the line, that right now, I don't want to say perhaps there is, perhaps there's not. I'm pushing to do a study right now, and based on that study, come up with strategies. I can subjectively tell you issues, and I know that there are issues, but I want to be grounded in evidence, and also we come up with some strategies to address that. So I think that if I can get that done, I would have done more than I expected to do.
If you can get that done, you'll have done more than 11 county. I won't.
But I'm sure all of you will be there to help me as I move forward.
Oh yeah,
we absolutely will.
Thank you.
So, Candy, I'm going to ask you one more thing. How do you think politics and participation in government and public service is different now for women. We've talked, several people have mentioned, I didn't think that I could run. You did, you said, why me? You know, I'm not rich enough. I listened to a conference last week where one of our most formidable state agency heads, a woman, said that she had told them 3 times, like the cock crows, that they should pass over her to be the head of this agency because she wasn't as qualified. So how do you think things have changed now? And I know that this is a little broader than just Richland County, but when you look at the difference in the makeup of Richland County from the time when you were the first female, what's the difference?
Well, obviously there are more of us, but there's still a lot of people that don't think women have the ability to do the job. I mean, we've still got a hill to climb. And I just want to tell you a little light thing on this subject. When I first ran and there had never been any women, people were saying, she wants to be a man. That's why she's running. And so for the 6-9 months that I was running, we didn't have pantsuits at that time, but we did wear jeans, we did wear pants. I wore a skirt or a dress every single day, even on the weekends when I went to the grocery store, so that people wouldn't say, she's trying to do a man's job. She thinks she's a man. I mean, that's a silly little thing, but it was true. I mean, this was totally foreign to them. And there was this resentment when we would do things as women better or more thoroughly or more conscientiously. And even to the point when I would go and observe the meetings of the groups that we funded. And then I would come back to the council and I would say, I think we need to fund LRADAC, that's the drug and alcohol, because da-da-da-da. And they would vote no. And then I realized they're not voting because they don't believe in the organization. They're voting because you proposed it. So for a period of time, I would come back and I would give the issue to Jim Barber or Jim Levinas or John Harper. And I'd say, will you please present this to county council? Because then I knew they would listen and they would vote for it because it wasn't a woman. Well, I think we've come a long, long way, but I don't think we've made it yet. I mean, obviously we've got the skills. We've got the vice president of this country is a woman. And I think hopefully that's gonna make a big difference, that these people who are so blind to the fact that or don't believe that women can do it, when they watch her in her calm and her intelligent manner, that they will see, you know, maybe women can do these things. But I think we still have to keep plugging. But we have made some progress, but we're not there. So that's it.
That's a good Candy. Thank you so much. I hope we all managed to overcome as well as you have. So I'm going to go back to Miss Scott now. You ready? Just want to make sure you weren't falling asleep on your...
No, I'm listening. Old people have to listen.
Well, I wanted to ask you how you perceive things having changed, because you were on one side of the table, then you were on the other side of the table, and now you created your own table in a very different way, sort of a regional table. Do you still feel a real sense of pride at having served? And, you know, the takeaways from that, it seems, have given you a lot of momentum into doing a lot of the things that you're doing in the county.
It has. I really think that sometimes women ourselves or look at another woman and think what the man thinks. She's not able to do it. I think that was one of Hillary Clinton's downfall. They just didn't want her to be, not just because she wasn't qualified, but she was a woman. And sometimes we look at each other like that, you know, because you can do this, I can't, I don't think you should be able to do this. And like Candace, she had it hard with the men. Tell her, try being a Black woman and being in that position. It is a difference. It's a big difference. You there, Barbara? Yeah, you there?
I'm sorry, I was giving my daughter a hug.
It's all right. We could have seen that. See, that's nothing to be ashamed of.
I'm not ashamed of. I think she was being exceptionally shy.
Okay. Okay.
No,
but
no.
you know, being a Black female, but you always got to remember, I know Candy went through a lot being the first woman, and they do. I could say something on council sometime, and they'll let it go along by 2 or 3 minutes. And then somebody else, a white male, will come up and say it. And then everybody think that's a good idea. And I go like, you know me, I said that 3 minutes ago. Look at your minutes. Nope, that's my idea. Stop it. You have to stop them sometime. You know, sometimes you can be nice and polite and let it go on. But sometimes you have to take charge. I learned that since I was in kindergarten. If you want something in life, my father died at 47. He always taught us, you're no better or no worse off than anybody else. You take pride in what you do and do it right. And I'm a firm believer in that. Isn't that right, Susan?
Absolutely.
I'm not Susan, but I think you live it, Bernice. And I think that's an example to all of us, not only for public office, but life in general. So thank you very much. All right, Susan, I'm going to pick on you again, saving the youngest for last.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, you're only a little bit older than Jessica, right?
I think Jessica could be one of my children.
I know she could be one of mine.
I know she could be one of mine.
So having served on 2 very different kinds of elected offices, can you contrast for us the way that you were received? And I'm asking this in sort of a personal way, because I think that women oftentimes are put into roles. So was it easier to be on school board than county council? Ms. Scott talks about how she would bring up an idea and it would be dismissed, and then a male would bring up an idea and it would be approved. Did you find that there was a difference in how you were received on the school board how you were received on county council?
You know, in a sense, county council was easier because I had my own district, and people tend to listen to what you need because you live there, or you have your, it just was easier when I had my own district. But what happened was now I'm running an entire district, you know, every precinct in the Northeast. And it really was quite a challenge. I enjoyed it. There are a lot of women in education, and it wasn't anything that I didn't enjoy learning about, but it was a whole new model. I had to learn the nomenclature. I had to figure out what they were talking about, because they speak another language, you know, folks that are in education. And I would study up, and then we would have students put up for expulsion, and you'd have to read through all that information in advance so you could help understand what the problems were, how they got into trouble, what would be the best outcome for students. For me, it was an education, and I totally and thoroughly enjoyed it. It just was different, entirely different. And I didn't have the autonomy that I had on county council. So it was an adjustment. And, you know, maybe after about 7 years, I adjusted. I figured it out. I finally figured it out and felt very comfortable. And as Bernice knows, it's about relationships. And if you can make friends wherever you go, or have a colleague that you can look at and say, why are we doing this? Or, you know, what's wrong with this? Or can we do it better? And it's all about, you know, just making friends. And then some of the biggest issues, like with county council, it's zoning. So now with education, it's the rezoning of the high schools, changing the lines and where kids will go to school. And parents get very emotional about those kinds of issues. So, and then there are problems with the budget. And, you know, we had an instance at one of our high schools when you know, folks felt that the student was mistreated by the SRO officer. I think during that period of time, I must have gotten 500 emails and phone calls. It was worse than when we had trash problems on county council.
So you would say that it was very different.
Ah, thank you. There.
All right. I want to turn the questioning over to Councilwoman Mackey. I understand that this whole night was your idea, so I thank you for it, because I think it's the kind of stories that need to be told, not just historically, but from a different perspective. And so I'm going to ask you a perspective question here. So things have changed a lot. Wait a minute, I lost my question. Happens to all of us, right? Where'd my Jessica question go? There you are. So women of color now hold 5 seats on county council. What, if anything, does that say about the changing face of representation, the electability of women and women of color, and what do you perceive to be the difference in perspective that the council is seeing as a result of those changes?
That's a good one.
Sorry, that's a big question.
that is a big question. I do want to start off by saying, yes, you know, this panel was my idea, and we've talked and hit on it just a little bit about the history, but you know, this year has been monumental in my life, and I believe the life of many women, as we watched Kamala Harris be sworn in, you know, to see a woman serve as vice president means so much. And to see a woman of color, a woman that is like me, sit in that position means even more, and put a truly different perspective on serving for me. Like I said, when I ran, it's for COVID, but to see that happen. And then even earlier this year, you know, my daughter learned and learned about Black History Month in school, and talked about, you know, who am I going to write about this year, Mom? And I said, you're going to write about Shirley Chisholm, right? And having her learn about Shirley Chisholm, because she learned about Kamala, but then to learn about Shirley Chisholm being the first woman to run. And now watching my daughter sit in her virtual class, telling her friends about my mommy is a county council member, right? It's an amazing perspective. And that's really what inspired me to learn more. And I'm like, I'm here. This means so much to me. What about all the women before me? You know, how did I get here? What have they done? And so, you know, going to our attorney's office and going to the clerk of court and digging, and it's not there. I found some names, and then I had to go search the library, and I had to dig here and there and try to find the history of women that have served on council. And so I am so thankful for the other women on this panel tonight that agreed to participate and share your stories. And I want us to find more of that history and make sure it's documented, because this means so much, and especially to the next generation of women, young girls here in Richland County. I want to make sure that we can share it. And so when you talk about perspective now, and me serving as a young Black woman on council, and to have so many other Black women serve alongside me, it means the future of Richland County and how we shape it. And my councilmember, Ms. McBride, she is correct. Every time we have a meeting, any issue we review, she is there making sure that there is diversity and inclusion and how we go about selecting our vendors and how we go about the folks that we work with or who we choose and how we choose to grow our county. And I think that is going to help as we develop an entire strategic plan for the growth of Richland County. Richland County is at a unique place right now where we need to kind of almost redefine the vision for Richland County and who we are. I think for the past few years, we've all seen in the news media, the coverage has not been good. And that is no longer do we want to be that. There is amazing talent in Richland County. There's amazing opportunity. And I believe with the council that we have now, that we're able to develop that plan that'll help us grow into a Richland County that is reflective for all of Richland County. And that means folks that look like me as well.
That is beautiful. Thank you, Jessica. I am going to combine, we have two questions from the audience and I'm going to combine it into one. We're coming up toward the end of our time and I'm going to ask everybody to stick to less than 1 minute to answer a short question. So I was on a panel not long ago, or I was participating, listening to a panel. And one of the questions that came up is very similar to one that has just come up from our audience, where they're asking, you know, what's the biggest challenge for women today? Well, I think we've talked about a lot of things that bring that directly to Richland County, but I want to combine it with the second question, which is, if you were trying to mentor or guide a younger woman to know the things, it's like saying, what would I tell myself 20 years ago or 2 years ago, if you're Jessica? What would I tell my younger self if I wanted them to know a little bit of what I have learned? And so, Councilwoman Mackey, can we start with you? Are you?
Sure.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I would definitely, you know, tell my few year younger self or young women coming up now that, you know, if you don't know about politics, that's okay. If you have the ability and the desire to serve and do what's best for your community, and you're willing to learn and educate yourself, step up and serve. You don't have to know about politics. You don't have to know about parties. What you have to know is about wanting to do what's right for your community and fixing whatever you believe needs to be fixed and having the ability to want to serve.
Love that. I'm gonna get the video when it's done so I can read everything back. How about Ms. Waits? What would you tell your younger self that they should know?
Completely with what she just said. I would also add to listen to the people that you are serving and to be transparent. I just think those are two really important things. I mean, the obvious things is you need to be prepared and so forth, but I think to listen to other and to be open to other ideas. This business of being so, you know, stuck in one little R or a D or whatever it happens to be, but to be willing to listen to other people. And just because you're an R or a D doesn't mean that you're always right. That we're human beings and we should listen to each other.
Thank you, Candy. I think that goes to the fact that the tables always turn. At some point, the R's are in power, sometimes the D's are in power, and if you don't learn to work together when you're on whatever the losing side of that is, you're losing your ability to accomplish something. So thanks for bringing that up. Ms. Scott, what would you tell what would you tell somebody about how to guide a younger woman?
Always be honest and always listen to people. And I believe I can't remember the scripture, but when God said, when you do it to the least one of mine, you've also done it to me.
Yes.
And I'm going to do well by people because I want God to do good by me.
Wow, that's a mouthful. Thank you very much. Ms. Brill?
You know, I've spoken to some classes through the years. Most recently was, I think, some 5th grade children from Jackson Creek Elementary. And I said, the most important thing that I have learned throughout my career is respect. And if you can respect other people, respect their ideas, respect where they've come from and what they're thinking, you will go a long way in this world. So I would say respect.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And Ms. McBride, Councilwoman McBride, we are going to wrap up this question with you.
Well,
hate to be the last,
great
right?
Answers. Excellent answers. I agree with everything that has been said. I would say trust yourself and take a chance. The one great thing that happened to me is being innocent. When you're innocent, you ask questions and you do things that you would not normally do, but it can sure help move you forward because people will trust that innocence. And so trust yourselves.
Sorry, had a daughter appearance again. Excuse me. Those are all great pieces of wisdom. I had a takeaway that sort of came from things that a lot of people said. That's that women feel like they have to work twice as hard, be twice as smart. You know, a man will apply for a job when he has 40% of the qualifications. A woman won't apply unless she's at 98.8. There are a lot of things that we need to overcome, and you are the role models. You are the examples. If young women don't see people who look like them, as you said, Ms. Mackey, they are not going to believe that they can do it. And you don't always win the first time. You may lose the first time and you can't quit. You can't go put your tail between your legs and run off and forget what the great moment was that made you want to do it. So I want to close this by thanking all of you for not only inventing this, but doing everything that you've done. I want to thank Richland Library. I still find myself saying RCPL. I know it's not Richland County Public Library anymore. It's Richland Library, and they are so much more than a library. It's the most incredible resource center that we have available in our county. So we're grateful to them. And I'm sure there's somebody else that I should be thanking. All of the people at Richland Library, my friend Melanie Huggins for leading the Richland Library in a very visionary direction. And I have nothing else. I will ask Tamara if there's anything else that needs to be said.
All right, I'm going to interrupt here a minute before she says anything. I want to thank you, Barbara Rack. You have been a woman on the front lines for a long time. And you have been very supportive of women, and the group that you are leading now is so important. So thank you very much, Barbara Rax.
I think if there's nothing else, then we'll say good night and God bless.